EPS long range scanner by GrumpyTrade. Let's dive into this price action and make some sense of it. So we could dive into this daily time frame, and we could see here that we're trading above the 20-day moving average, trading above the 50-day moving average. And I marked out these rectangles to just display how the stock climbs really the ladder really nicely, and how as it breaks above, digest those gains, the previous levels of resistance act as support, right? We break above this resistance, right? We get a little extended, digest, and it breaks out, right? Now we're breaking into this resistance up in this premises, and it's acting as support. So we're going to say this is innocent until proven guilty, and we monitored on an intermediate time frame over here, and we could see that when it popped up on our scanner, it prior to it showing, it rallied to a new high above this flat to rising 5-day moving average. Just delete this here. And this is the trade that we had set up, is trade above 1620, stop below 1527. And you could see here on Tuesday, it would have triggered, you would have had to sat through that pullback. And then Monday, it actually pulled back. Tuesday pulled back really nice to this 2-day VWAP and this prior high VWAP that was acting as resistance, flipped, acted as support. So when we got that break up, created into daily R2 acted as support, broke above, and pulled back to the daily VWAP. So let's get into the potential scenario that I've been monitoring. Is since it's a little extended over the past approximately 5 days, we take it from this prior low. You know, we're up about 14% and 50 bars. So ideally, this digests these gains a little bit, pulls back to this area of resistance. Maybe we act some sort of support, trade into that prior high, get some digestion, and then get going. So we put a VWAP at this prior high, and to just monitor to see that VWAP become support, and then potentially have something play out like this for a lower risk setup or a stop underneath this prior low. If it doesn't pull back, maybe it just pulls back to this 2-day VWAP and gets back above it, that VWAP, that high, and gets going. And then we could potentially look for something visually that would look like this, potentially. So that's ALHC. Let's dive into LX. LX here trading above the 20-day, 50-day moving average, break up, 2-day inside consolidation. So we'll see if this could continue to digest these gains. Maybe it wants to pull back, tag these lows here, sucker some shorts in, and then get some strength, rally to those 2 and 3-day VWAPs, and then potentially set a higher low there. And then once we get it back above these prior day VWAPs in this premises, then potentially we could be looking for something to play out in this area here, but maybe potentially getting back above this 1074, stop under this 1030 area. Let's go through ALHC real quick and just throw out some numbers. So higher risks trade is the pullback to the 2-day, getting back above. So maybe getting back above, 17. It gets back above 1702, 1701 with the stop underneath the 1669 potentially. And ideally, it gets a little flush here, aggressive bounce. This is the pink line that we talked about. That would be a potential VWAP right there. So then that would be potentially getting in at 16, say 75-ish with the stop underneath this 1636. Get into TIGR. And we could see here we had earnings the prior day on Monday, follow through. So this will be the 3rd day. We gapped above this 20-day moving average here. The data will start to waterfall, meaning it consolidates. It doesn't really waterfall, actually. It just consolidates and starts to drop off into this base here. So perhaps that trying to find my this little base here. So we'll see if this TIGR could hold these gains here on these earnings. Ideally, since it's a little extended and intermediate, pulls back to that 2-day or 3-day VWAP area, rallies to the daily VWAP, gets back above, and then takes out that $10 high in here. So everybody buying the breakout in this area at 970 after a 20% run in 11 bars. So that's like one trading day. So we'll see if this could digest this, set up an inside day, and then maybe set up for later in the week here, because we just had this big day. And if we needed to make a play on this today, we'd be looking for extend the pull back up to this daily VWAP, 2-day, 3-day VWAP, and maybe look to get into this 930, take some into this 974, potentially monitor it for that breakout above, and then watch for if this from a failed move could come a fast move. So BCS, we got BCS now, pull back to the 50-day moving average, rising 20, rising 50, and seems that it gets up into this area and it fails. So maybe we need to get a little pull back into here to play this breakout. It's ran 10% in 6 bars. Can keep going, but maybe it needs to digest. And we come over here to the intermediate time frame. Say if price bounces off this 2-day VWAP, finds supply 3-day, finds support at that supply at that 2-day, what would we be starting to see here? This would be a pattern of, right, lower lows and lower highs. So we'd want to let this digest, pull back, and then where can they find support is this prior level of resistance in this area, month to date VWAP. We'll take this VWAP and put it at the prior low. So potentially even maybe undercut that and come back and tag that prior low VWAP. So just something to be mindful of, or maybe get some strength right here and goes. So monitor for a push up, pull back into this 1590 premises. And if we could get back up about 2-day VWAP, look to see if we could take this back into the 1620, digest the gains, and then we could look to take that 16 breakout more serious. The 1620 breakout more serious. DX continues to pop up and showing strength. We got this push in here so far, so we could see that on the daily time frame as well, trading above, holding this 20-day moving average, recently pulled back after this consolidation. So we'll see if this has been finding some supply up in this area. We could see we're having some trouble getting above this 1450 premises. And now that we just did rally up to 1450 in 5% in 5 days approximately, what are the odds that it's going to continue to break through that level of supply? That's what we want to ask ourselves. So ideally, a little bit of digestion to the 2- and 3-day VWAPs, get back above the daily, and then maybe we could take that, use the energy to feel the break of that 1450, and then monitor from a failed move comes a fast move lower, and then potentially look for the lower risk setup in here, where we could then turn the tide in something like this as we pull back to the 5-day, month to date, and then potentially get some strength. So FNA, got this big base up here so far, we could see. Okay, it's consolidating. Trade's a little funny, these bars. So perhaps maybe buying above this high, the stop under here, say 1298, 12, I don't like to do a round number, 1299. So this pulls back like this, and then maybe we could look to take some into this area. They may do something like that. before it goes. So FNA, maybe something above 1305, the tight stop at 12.99. NEM, I don't love that one either because these candles just look funny. And NEM, we mapped out the scenario here. Let's see, just got above the 200-day moving average, pulled back. We have a nice solid base up in this premises here. You could see been consolidating, rallied into that 20-day, 20-day starts to flatten and rise, 50 days declining. Now the 50-day moving average has been flattening to rising. This is data 50 days ago, data 20 days ago. Data on the 20 days moving average will start to waterfall out. So even if we pull back for 2 or 3 days or even consolidate, then we could retest that 200-day moving average, set a higher low, and then maybe get something like this going. So map this out on the intermediate time frame. You can see very similar on the daily. So that's NEM. And so basically pull back to the 3-day VWAP, get back above the daily and 2-day, trade into this previous high, and leave some for the breakout into 50. And okay, we got big extension on this, pull back to the 20-day moving average, gapped, pulled back to the 20-day moving average, and continued to push here. So you can see here, I didn't get this pullback when this came up on our scan before. So we'll see if this pattern now could basically, as it's trading in the pre-market sold off, is it going to come here and start to get back above the 2 and 3-day VWAPs and start higher highs and higher lows? Or is it going to come back to this, maybe potentially bounce, maybe get a little bit more profit taken to this low, bounce into those prior day VWAPs, and then set in lower lows and lower highs, come back and close this gap, retest potentially this month to date VWAP premises here at 515. So be on the lookout for these scenarios. Ideally, if it gets back above the 2-day VWAP, can consolidate. You could look for a stop under this prior low, maybe at 14.539, right? And look for a trade into this 549 previous high, and then leave some for the continuation and monitor for the shakeout and the failed move at that 2-day VWAP. From a failed move could come a fast move down to the month to date VWAP potentially for this gap fill. Hopefully this was helpful.